Well, I'm honored and delighted to have back with us today Dr. Jerome Corsi. He is a senior staff reporter for WorldNetDaily, author of two best-selling books, New York Times bestsellers. First of all, Unfit for Command, Swiftboat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry, and of course the Obama Nation. He is with us today on a couple of topics, but Dr. Corsi, first of all, just moments ago, we found out that it looks like John Kerry is going to be nominated for Secretary of State. Your response?
Well, we've been anticipating this. I mean, I will be writing some articles next week in WND.com, again opposing John Kerry. As you know, I co-authored Unfit for Command, the Swiftboat book with John O'Neill. I'm not sure the Swiftboat veterans are going to organize as strongly as a group this time. I mean, this is a appointment to be Secretary of State, not Department of Defense, and certainly not to run for president. But I'm going to express the concerns that we've had, that I've personally had, in some articles in WND over the next few weeks, so time them to coincide, I guess, with the confirmation hearings. So the articles might not start appearing right away, but they're planned and they will appear.
Bottom line is that he'll probably be confirmed, don't you think?
He'll be confirmed. I don't think there's any way to block it, although I want the country aware of John Kerry's role when he was, during the Vietnam War, really working with the communists, hand in hand.
Yeah.
And really disgracing his uniform with the Vietnam veterans against the war when he came out supposedly this great war hero, who threw away his medals and ribbons, and then proceeded to work with the communists while yet in uniform to the disadvantage of the United States. I mean, I've always considered the behavior to be virtually treasonous.
You're right, right. It looks like the current Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, is looking for a clean exit door away from Benghazi and everything else. Is that possible?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Hillary would like to run as far from Benghazi as she can get because she's worried that it's going to tarnish her presidential hopes. And the Benghazi incident, depending upon how it's pursued, could be a major type of problem for the Obama administration in the beginning of the second term and for Hillary Clinton. I mean, if it turns out that Hillary and the president were negligent, that they watched this attack go on and did nothing to intervene to save the Americans under attack in that compound, or that we knew in advance the attack was coming and we didn't take adequate precautions to protect these Americans, or that they were on a CIA mission. I mean, there's any number of ways this can turn. So Hillary knows that this is a minefield, and she's going to at least be testifying when she's no longer Secretary of State, which will somewhat reduce the pressure that can be put on her.
Well, it's just amazing. It seems that this president is Teflon coated, but on the other hand, there just seems to be so many crazy things going on that something simple may catch him. Not that I want to see a failure of a presidency, but let's face it, this socialistic nonsense has got to get stopped somehow.
Well, first of all, I've opposed Barack Obama on the socialism, on the move so far to the left, and the economically and politically. Second terms for presidents since the passage of the 22nd Amendment, which limits the terms a president can serve. From the day President Obama takes his second oath of office, he's going to be a lame duck. And the second terms have been very problematic. It was when Nixon, of course, resigned under pressure with Watergate, when Bill Clinton was impeached. The second term promises to be very problematic for Barack Obama. It's starting off very rocky with no compromise now seeming likely in this fiscal cliff problem that we're facing with Congress.
All right. I want to turn to, tell us about your investigation of the charges of John Cruz and what's going on with that in the Justice Department.
Well, John Cruz was a whistleblower from HSBC Bank. HSBC is Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. It's a Chinese bank. The headquarters, the holding company, is in London. It's in dozens of countries. And John Cruz brought with him, when he came to see us at WND, he was having a hard time getting anybody in the media to pay any attention to him. But he had been an officer in the bank, HSBC, out in Long Island. And he brought with him about 1,000 pages of customer records, which showed a clear pattern of money laundering. I mean, what the bank was doing was the bank was opening up an account, having stolen your Social Security number or my Social Security number, customers or former customers of the bank, in an identity theft scheme. Then millions of dollars would be run through these accounts. Accounts would end up with zero balance. They'd be closed. John Cruz was a relationship banker. He was supposed to go out and visit these accounts in New York and expand the banking relationship, selling new products and services to these commercial accounts. And John found there were no businesses there, vacant lots, empty offices, one or two employees, not doing what the bank records said the company was going to do, or was supposed to be doing. Bank records showing millions of dollars of activity in this bank, in this account. So when John brought the records back and complained to his supervisors at HSBC, the branch managers, the division supervisors, compliance officers all told John to forget about it, not to look at those accounts anymore. And what John realized he had was a pervasive pattern of money laundering that extended to all levels of the bank, including the top levels of senior management, with millions and millions, probably billions and billions of dollars being illegally funneled through HSBC.
So where is this case? What's happened?
Well, just recently, in fact, the Senate Banking Committee, John and I took this information. As soon as I started writing about it, I was contacted by the Department of Homeland Security and the Senate Permanent Investigating Subcommittee. We started turning over records. John also turned them over to the IRS. We wanted to make sure that the federal authorities knew this was going on. It's very hard to get any attention. I mean, John Cruz had wiretapped bank officers just to get their record that they were not taking their jobs responsibly and not pursuing these accounts. We started taping. John did. I did not, but John taped the federal officials that he met with. Eventually, the Senate issued a report in July, and last week, or about 10 days ago, the bank was fined close to $2 billion for illegal activity. And the Senate said there was money laundering, first of all, with the Mexican drug cartels, terrorists who had ties to Saudi Arabia, and third, money laundering activities so that Iran could circumvent sanctions, banking sanctions, the Obama administration had placed on Iran to try to force Iran to drop its nuclear weapons program. And so John and I both feel, and we've been reporting, this even close to $2 billion fine is just a wrist slap. It's a cover-up, because the fine was negotiated by the bank in lieu of criminal prosecutions. So nobody in the bank is going to be prosecuted for this massive amount of violations of any number of U.S. laws, including the Patriot Act.
This is unbelievable. Now, I understand this has cost you some relationships.
Well, I worked at a brokerage firm. I was managing director of Guilford Securities, a brokerage firm in Midtown Manhattan. And when I started publishing these articles, the chairman said I could no longer be managing director. I'd have to leave the firm. I couldn't be exposing this. I said, well, what's the problem? I mean, I have lots of NASD, now FINRA licenses as a registered financial, broker and financial representative. I've had them for 25 years, and my responsibilities under those licenses are to report violations of money laundering and other Patriot Act or improprieties that I were to find in financial services. So I said to the chairman of that firm, Guilford Securities, I said, I'm just doing my job. He said, as long as you're a member of this firm, they knew I was a journalist when they hired me.
Yeah, right.
Because of the work I had done as a journalist.
So is this case closed?
The case is closed in the sense that now that the fine has been assessed, a civil fine, and HSBC has agreed to pay it, there's going to be no further investigations. And I think that's really the point. As John Cruz, when he first came to see me, said the bank had reserved $2 billion to pay fines. It's cost of doing business. I mean, you know, the bank, something like $2.6 trillion in assets worldwide. So instead of making $22 billion this year, the bank makes $20 billion, and the shareholders pay the fine. The bank executives keep their salaries, they keep their jobs.
And the activity continues.
Well, I would think it will. I mean,
Yeah.
the real reason here is that the federal government did not want the investigation reaching into the federal government itself.
Huh.
When you think about it, drug cartels cannot operate without banking. Cash business. What good is $1 billion? You can drive it, of course, into your HSBC bank in Tijuana, get the red carpet treatment, high net worth value. Customers sip espresso while the bank counts and burns the money and gives you a passbook with all your electronic deposits that you can move around the world.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Corsi, for your tenacity on that. We'll just have to wait and see if any more comes of it down the road. I want to come back to President Barack Obama just for a moment. We only got a couple of minutes left here. And you said he's going to have a rocky start into his lame duck term. Do you see anything else that possibly could bite him?
Well, I think the financial situation is going to be dire. Everything good that was could happen with Obamacare was stacked into this bill to occur before the election. You know, you can't be held for pre-existing conditions on your insurance. All of that was pre-packaged and preloaded into the bill. Now all the bad stuff starts happening. People find out how expensive this is going to be, how much it's going to cost. You're going to find people fired, made into part-time employees. Very heavy supporter of Obamacare, love it, supported it, voted for Obama. Now they're going to find they can't afford to stay in business. So that plus the economic impact of taxation, if we do raise taxes as Obama wants to do, and the administration, let's face it, the taxing the rich was always a Saul Alinsky class warfare argument. I mean, the Democrats are after an energy tax. They're going to want a national sales tax, a VAT. They need to raise trillions of dollars to keep this welfare state going. And the Democrats are committed to paying their constituents in order to retain their loyalty. The FDR coalition that Obama's reassembled, wants to maintain their Obama phones. What's going to happen when, pensions are running out, states can't meet their obligations to retirees? We're headed for, I think, the financial crisis that has been avoided by printing money up to this point.
Well, Dr. Corsi, I appreciate your time. I know you're on a tight schedule, and so are we. I look forward to having you back throughout this first year of his second term, because I think you're going to be a very interesting person to stay in contact with. So thank you for your tenacity. The very best to you, and Merry Christmas, my friend.
Christmas to you and your audience. Great pleasure and honor to be back with you. Thank you.
All right, God bless.